Hello and welcome to the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my pajama-wearing co-host, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you this evening?
I am bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I am full of vim, verve, and vigor. I am ready to rock this intro.
It's 10:02 p.m., which if you're not old, for Lance, it's like the equivalent of like us trying to record this at 3 in the morning if you're,
Same.
like 25. Yeah. So like it's doable, but it's like, wow, really? We got to do this at 3 in the morning? Like, all right.
I shouldn't be driving right now. Operating heavy machinery.
We just got done interviewing our amazing guest for this episode, Susan Ryder, and Lance afterwards was like, I'm wearing my pajama pants. And then I was like, I am too. So she was like, wait, what?
That was an option?
Yep, that was an option.
Well, so, this is you're going to be fascinated because she pulled a super Vulcan mind meld on us. We came out guns a-blazing with total normal nonsense.
The first about 10 full minutes. It was like it was 9 to 10 minutes of just complete jackassery.
It's like when your kid's little and you let them run it out.
Right.
They just like wear themselves out. And then you can just like have a normal conversation.
And then
with them,
she corralled us. It was
beautiful.
It was truly amazing. Yeah, it was truly amazing. As you'll hear, like the last 20 minutes, the whole thing is great, and she's talking about her family and growing up in Iowa and playing in the Marine Band. But then the end is really good. It's talking about
cool.
about fear and self-doubt and inner narrative, and it's she. Yep. Yeah. And then at the end, we actually out loud were like, "Wow, you really just corralled us! Like this was
well done." Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. One thing I would like to point out is that there's a hockey team that's called the Montreal Canadiens, which I ever put.
Where are they from?
They're from Ontario. If I ever don't email me, I know that Montreal is in Manitoba. Yeah. If I ever put my deep-seated hatred of that sports franchise into writing, I would no longer be allowed around children. And the Bruins played tonight as we're recording this in Montreal, and the Bruins won 8-1, which in hockey is the equivalent of you staying up until 10 p.m. to record this intro. So I'm very happy. We were just talking about Michael Colburn off air with Susan, and I don't know if you remember, Lance, but when I figured out that he was from northern Vermont, do you remember? I said, I got real serious, and I went, wait a minute. It's like, you're a hockey fan, I'm guessing. He said, yep. And I said, are you a Bruins fan or are you a Canadiens fan? Because this is going to alter how this goes here. Yeah. So, I mean, if you grew up an hour north of Montreal, what are you going to do? It's not your fault. I mean, it is, but it's not. But Vermont people choose, right? And he said Bruins. I was like, okay. And then you seemed relieved, Lance, that everything was okay. So,
yeah, I was sweating that one.
Colburn is a hard person to get mad at, but I was up to the task. If he's a Canadiens fan, then I could dig deep for that inspiration. So
game on.
Okay, quick story, and then we're going to read one review, and then we're going to get out of here. So I was just at the Virginia Music Educator Conference.
What state?
And actually almost West Virginia. It was at the Homestead. Beautiful, the Homestead, which you remember. You've been.
Yeah, that's a nice place.
Yes, it is. So I was there with Glenn Jordan and Jim White from Jupiter, who are both retired, but they both kind of do some work for them still. And they were the two guys that were there, and they're retired. They're old. So I wanted to thank them for having me at the booth, and I posted a photo of them with of Statler and Waldorf is who I posted a photo of, and I thanked them for letting me hang out at the booth, which was kind of funny. But the really funny part, did you see this, Lance?
I did. This is pretty good.
Yeah. What the really funny part?
Do people know who Statler and Waldorf are still?
I would assume so. They're the two grumpy old guys up on the balcony from the Muppet Show. Yeah. In fact, if you don't know who they are, then pause right now and go and Google image search. You could even just grumpy old guys Muppets, and they're going to pop up right away. Well, the truly funny thing happened when Facebook, as you know, Facebook auto tags photos. Like when Lance's mug, it just auto tags Lance. Which is kind of scary a little bit that they know that. But I had to screenshot this because Facebook auto-tagged Statler as Michael Sachs. Which is funny. So I, of course, being the classy person I am, I screenshotted it and then I posted it to his Facebook wall. And I thought about, this is the last part of the story, I thought about tagging Joe Alessi on the post to make sure that he saw it, because they're dear friends and they really like to make fun of one another profusely. That seems to be their main outlet for showing how much they care about each other. And I was like, nah, he'll see it. 5 minutes later, the first reaction was Joe Alessi with the laughing emoticon. So, yeah.
So, anyway. A power move would have been to tag Waldorf as Joe Alessi.
Oh.
Like our good friend Wes Funderburk used to tag. He would post a picture of like a half a dozen ducks. And then he would tag each one of us. So then you get this notification. Wes Funderburk has tagged you in a photo. And you would go to the photo. It's just a half a dozen ducks.
Paddling around in circles on a video. And it said it was you, me, and JD. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Something not right with that boy. Yep. Still isn't. So, all right. Thank you to everyone who has gone to Apple Podcasts, left a rating and a review. We really, really, really appreciate it very much. And I was going to read a review, but we'll save that for the next one because we're already at 6.5 minutes here. Although those are good stories. Those are good stories. Yeah. By the way, Michael Sachs, all he did was he commented just brutal. So, but there were people from all over the world actually who were enjoying that Facebook post very much at poor Michael's expense. So,
there should be.
Thank you to everybody who's gone to patreon.com /the Brass Junkies, and we talked about that a little bit at the end of the show and the Jacob's Quotes podcast and everything else that you can get. And thank you to everybody who's signed up for our newsletter. And I think that's about it. Lance, anything else? I know that you're about to fall asleep in your chair.
Happy Thanksgiving, Andrew. I know this isn't going to air for a while, but I won't talk to you before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving.
Well, we have a business call tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's right. Happy
right.
Thanksgiving,
no.
Andrew.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too. And without further ado, let's get to the conversation that we had with Marine Band trumpet player Susan Ryder. Today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by an extraordinary trumpet player, and her name is Susan Ryder. Susan, how are you?
I'm excellent. How are you guys?
I'm honored to be speaking with not only a great trumpet performer, but a wonderful person as well.
I love that
Can I quote you on that?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Oh, my word goes really far in the Marine Band for sure.
I like that I just asked her and said, so do you have any questions before we start? And she said, not at this point, which means that there might be questions coming in the middle of the interview, which I may kind of nod okay, I paused it, but just between you and me, audience, I'm not going to pause it. You're going to hear the questions in real time.
So, I have questions for a lawyer. I have questions for my therapist. I have questions for my maker.
My life coach. My maker. I think we've had some guests who maybe questioned being on, but I don't know if we've triggered any existential crises. But
not on the show. We should aim for that.
We should do follow-ups with people. Did you?
How has your life been changed since speaking on the Brass Junkies?
Did you start? Did you start therapy or ramp it up within 3 months of speaking to us? Yeah. Did you profit? Yep. Financially or spiritually? We should totally come up with a questionnaire, Lance.
For sure.
We should probably do it with Susan on the line. We'll just sum it up. Susan's one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet in your life. She's amazing at the trumpet, and that's it. So now, okay, the interview's done. So Lance, let's come up with this questionnaire.
So we can have a follow-up.
What else?
This is going to be my second interview with you now, right?
There we go. And now, returning to the Brass Junkies is an amazing trumpet player and an amazing woman, Susan Ryder. Susan, how are you today?
About 5 minutes ago.
I had reason to believe that you were actually possibly different than you were when this started. So
I had to actually think about that for a second.
See, now we're getting honest. There you go. If I hadn't known Susan for so long and also knew so many people that knew you so well, I would say that the friendly thing has to be an act. I know it's not, but like, you're just like always calm. You're always like friendly. It's and you're an amazing trumpet player. It doesn't fit my narrative, which it's annoying if I'm being honest.
Well, I'm trying to think of how to react to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either. So,
but you're very kind in what you say. So thank you very much for that.
I'm going with the Iowa thing. I think, based on my experience, everybody that I know that either lives there now or is from there is incredibly kind. So I'm choosing to believe that one.
Well, you are not the first person to say that. So I will. I can speak about my wonderful state that I grew up in, but I've had other people say they talk about the Iowa nice thing, and I would certainly concur with that. One of the things I do with the Marine Band besides play is that I'm a tour coordinator. And what that is I help manage the tours when our fall tour when it happens. And when we go to the Midwest, one of our former tour directors actually talked about the Iowa nice thing to me. He's like, everyone in Iowa actually returned my phone call, you know?
Yeah, but one of my best friends, Ben Barron, he's one of the best clarinet players in the world. He's not nice. So, and he's born and raised in Sioux City. So I don't. It can't just be the state. He's really not very kind.
Well, okay. I don't know him, so
You're not personally responsible.
I heard it, Susan. You just agreed. There you go.
Well, it's a generalization, of course, but
he's the exception that proves the rule. Yeah, there you go.
Maybe it's the open spaces in the Midwest. Just everything is there's just nothing is so tightly wound like it can tend to be here in Washington D.C.
I don't know what you're talking about. Everything's very calm these days.
Andrew and I used to. Well, I'm a vegetarian now, but when I was in the quintet, most of the time I was an avid meat eater, and one of our favorite places on the planet was in Des Moines, Iowa.
Ah, excellent.
It was a meat market.
Yeah, that place. What's the name of that place?
What is the name of that place? It's worth looking at.
I'm Googling it right now. That place is magical.
We had been there. If there was any possible way for us to route ourselves without adding like 2.5 hours to our drive, if it was under 2.5, we would go through so we could stop at this place.
B&B Grocery Meat and Deli. Yes, B&B Grocery Meat and Deli. It's on the south side of Des Moines, and they've got a chef's table, but they certainly wouldn't call it that. Yeah, which is like behind the counter. And we got that treatment every single time because we kept going back, and they were like, "Who the hell are you guys?"
We were more regular than their regulars.
Yes. And then we had a concert in Des Moines where we ended up plugging the crap out of them, and then they got a whole bunch of customers. So then they were like, "You guys, we had like 30 new customers last time you were in town." So yeah, we met the butcher, their cow supplier, who came in on business. It was awesome. Yeah, yep. Man, I miss those dudes.
Well, they should be paying you then. I mean,
right.
You brought business to them. I mean, actually, most of my family lives in Des Moines now, so I go and see them in Des Moines. I don't think I've ever eaten at that place.
Oh, you got to go, and don't be fooled. You look at it, and you're like, "Am I in the right spot?" I'm like, yeah, you're in the right spot. Just walk in boldly.
It's on 6th
Street, in and bang a left, and you'll be right at the meat counter there.
Yep. 6th Street. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Yep.
I know where that is. There was a great pizza place, I think, called Chuck's there. My father and his brothers always went to eat pizza there. So I've been in that area. I know where you're talking about. So I thought you were going to talk about. There's a place called, I think, Zombie Burger there, which is in the maybe more the downtown area. I thought maybe that's what you were talking about, because they have some good burgers there. So
no, this place is like out of like a time capsule. I mean, yeah, it's like stuck like decades ago, and it's like incredibly fresh. And like Lance said, the front of the store, it's going to look like it doesn't look like it's a place where you would go in to get food. And then if you stand out there long enough, you'll see people are streaming in there. So.
And every time we were there, someone was wanting to quit, and they wouldn't let them because they were a part of the family. They're all related. So like, you can't quit. Like, that's my uncle. He won't let me quit.
We love Iowa. Yeah, we love Iowa.
Did you guys ever eat at Made Right? Have you ever had a Made Right?
I don't think so.
In Iowa?
No.
Okay, that's like the loose meat sandwich.
Okay.
Right? So
like chipped ham in Pittsburgh, they do chipped ham, which is a strange thing.
Okay. Yeah. So like the show Roseanne, the original, like she and Jackie had the business, the loose meat sandwich business. Right. I think she based it on the Made Right.
Oh.
Because she was married to Tom Arnold at the time, and Tom Arnold's from Iowa. So
how did that work?
He's loose meat, so. This is the weirdest start to a show.
This is.
And we've set the bar high.
Yeah, we have. Like, no, this might even be weirder than the Pat Sheridan opener, which was,
wow.
Susan's now horrified. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm not saying it's like significantly weirder than Pat, but I think it might, because I think we actually had a little bit of self-awareness. Like, wait a minute, the whole hour could be like this, which could be incredibly off-putting to every human that's not the three of us. So let's maybe try and ask some real questions. So
now you got in after Pat got out, I guess. Is that true? I was looking at you got in 97. When he got out, around 95, 96, somewhere in there.
That sounds about right. I don't remember specifically, but of course, I mean, his name, I've heard his name much through the years. He lives in Marine Band lore, and I'm sure he's aware.
Isn't it impressive when he's like the Barry Sanders of the Marine Band, where Barry Sanders really didn't play for very long, but he was such a transcendent talent that he is still talked about as one of the greats. Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Sat on Barbara Bush's lap one time.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Oh my!
Yeah,
is that a story that you can tell on the?
Yeah,
podcast?
It was just one.
Just did
something. I can't remember the specifics, but that he was carousing around and ended up sitting in her lap. So you'll have that.
I'm trying to imagine the situation where that could possibly happen without the Secret Service coming over and like taking him physically off of her.
Oh, we didn't say that didn't happen. So
okay.
It's true. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Wow. Barbara just gave the hand wave, like, "No, I want this." Yep.
Yeah. Make it rain. Tico. Yeah, exactly.
So what
How long do you think we can go before we ask an actual question?
A little longer now, because I was just
30 minutes. I know. I was trying to.
Yeah, there you go.
Trying to slow you down.
So what was it like growing up in a small town? I know your father's a musician. Was both your parents or just your father?
Well, actually, my father is a scientist by profession. However, he grew up in a very musical family.
Okay.
Like I mentioned before, he grew up in Des Moines. And his father was a stride pianist, and he was a policeman, actually. But the Des Moines policeman at that time actually had a jazz band. Huh. And so my grandfather was the stride pianist in that band. And so...
What is that?
Like the stride, like Fats Waller,
that
stride piano style.
Okay.
It's like precluded, like boogie woogie is fast stride.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would that be a way to describe it?
Yeah. So
Cool.
So when there's my dad, and then my Uncle Tom, and then my Uncle Jim. And my Uncle Tom was the oldest. Uncle Jim is in the middle. My dad is the youngest. They would sit at the piano with my grandfather, and he would show them, like plunk out notes. And so they learned to play by ear. And so they had a band growing up. And so my father is just, he's just kind of self-educated as a musician. He knows thousands of tunes, and actually in his retirement, he has been recording CDs of his one-man band, which is called All Paul. His name is Paul, and
That'd
so
be a weird name for an album. His name was Frank.
I know. And so he has recording equipment.
That's amazing.
At home. And he's just living out his passion in his retirement.
How old is he?
By playing music. He just turned 79 last week.
Wow, and he's making solo albums. That's amazing.
I know.
That's awesome.
He's amazing, but so the love of music was in my family growing up, and so we had music in the house all the time. And so I actually remember wanting to play the alto saxophone when I was picking an instrument in fourth grade. And I think by the time they got to me, that instrument had all been picked. So, and my older brother played trumpet. So I think they decided to give me a trumpet too. And so, the rest is history, as they say, as far as that's concerned. But
so they didn't try and steer you away from saxophone because it's too loud. It was like genuinely taken.
I think all it had been picked by those who ended up wanting to do it. So
there's a famous story about the founding trombone player for Boston Brass, Ed Clow, where he wanted to join the band, and the band director called and asked to speak with Ed, and told him that he could play either drums or trombone, and Ed said, "I'm going to play the drums." And then Ed's mother asked for the phone and told Ed to leave the room, and she called Ed back in like 20 seconds later, and then Ed said hello, and the bander's like, "I'm really sorry, I made a mistake. There are no drums left." So his mother was just like, "Yeah, no, my kid is not playing the drums. Yeah, I don't know who you are, but I will find where you live." So, and then the rest is history. So,
oh man,
wow, I'm fascinated that your dad is making albums like by himself as a multi-instrumentalist at the age of 79. That's incredible.
I know I'm a little biased here, but he's an amazing man. He's so intelligent. I mean, he had a career as a chemist for 41 years at the University of Northern Iowa. But he always played music, and I remember this, like he plays Dixieland, a lot of Dixieland. That's really a lot of where his passion is. And so I remember, my earliest memories of him playing Dixieland. And so one of the really cool things that I get to do with him now is that, like, once a year I go to Iowa, and there's a Dixieland festival in my hometown, and I actually play Dixieland with him for the weekend. And I would not say that I'm as good at it as he is, but it's just been one of the really great thrills for me to be able to just stand next to him and hear him play and try to pick up on what he does. And then the band is incredible, and just to hear the guys. So I'm really honored to just stand amongst them and just to get to soak in this music that means a lot to him and my family history. So that's one of the really fun things that I've gotten to do the last few years with him. But he, when he got his recording equipment, like, he's never taken a professional recording class. And he just learned how to do it. He's just got a brain for that kind of thing. And so he's just kind of figured it out. And so it's really cool. And he just wrote a march that
Lance, are you starting to wonder, like, is this like a long play joke here? Because if it is, it's very well played, like.
I'm thinking maybe you should interview my father.
Yeah, well, it's like, wait, does he play a brass instrument? Because, how do we get her off the line?
But, I think what's cool is not only he's living out his passion, but that's really cool for me because I feel like music for me I have a great passion for it too. And he really keeps me, just seeing the passion really helps me to keep that passion as well, And so I'm really grateful for that. And, it's just fun to really talk about music and, and that my family, understands it. Because we have I have quite a few family members who are music educators, and so that's a big thing in the family. So I'm really grateful for that I get to do something that really resonates with my family. So
does your brother still play trumpet?
Not full time, but like when he picks it up, he remembers it. And my brother's another one. He's got an incredible musical ear, and so. And he and I talk about music, and sometimes he'll say, "Hey, I heard this great tune. I think you'll like it." And we do that a lot with each other. And he's a really big fan of, like, he listens to, like, John Pizzarelli has a radio show with his wife, and he's listening to that all the time. And he's got, so when he picks up his trumpet, he may be out of shape, but it's all still there. And so sometimes we'll just play together, if I'm visiting, and it's really fun. But we played together, since he's 2 years older than me. We got to play together for a couple years in high school, and that was really fun. And I'm really, really grateful for that time that he and I got to, play music together and sit next to each other in band. That was really great. So
when you said that when Lance asked if he still played trumpet, you said not really, but when he picks it up, it just, he just remembers. I started laughing, not at what you said, but I was like, that's been working for John Abbracciamento for the last 20 years. So
that's right.
We'll have to tell John to listen to this podcast.
Oh, right? He listens.
I'll be waiting for the text when he listens to this one.
As will I. Yep. I'm here for you, John. Actually, I'll be busy watching the last 10 years worth of Yankees World Series highlights. Which they didn't appear in any. So actually that won't take me very long. The 10-year challenge thing online. Somebody posted Yankees 2009 27 rings, and then it said Yankees 2019 27 rings. It's like that's not nice. That is not nice. Yep. There you go. Well, that's pretty cool that you grew up around that much music, and yet it's not like generally it seems like people that reach the levels that you have in the business, like when the family's musical, it's, somebody or multiple people are professionals, so you kind of follow in the footsteps of, so it's pretty incredible that your whole family is amateurs, meaning they do it for fun, and that so why do you think that you ended up going as far as you did when everybody else kind of went different directions?
They were all quitters. Why weren't you a quitter?
I was just trying to see if she'd actually say it. She'd have the courage to say it. But,
ooh. I feel the challenge coming. Can I say it? No. Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I can really answer that question.
And I don't even know if it's a good question, but I asked it.
It is a good question, and I sometimes ask myself, like, what happened for me that I just hooked into it,
right?
And I suppose I felt like I took to the trumpet fairly easily early on, and I think it was something that I felt like I could really excel at. I found myself excelling at it. I found myself really enjoying expressing myself musically, and I was in a program growing up with a school that had a really good fine arts program. It was a pretty small school, but there was a lot of emphasis on the arts at this school, and so I had teachers who were really cultivating that as well. And so I think that a combination of things, just being part of close to the University of Northern Iowa that has a really great music school, there were just a lot of good influences beyond my family that I just felt like I really want to do this. As a teenager, I remember making that decision, and my parents never discouraged me, although years later, we were kind of worried about it, but they never.
They were Iowa nice,
it.
though. They were Iowa nice.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly understand their trepidation,
Sure.
but they never said, no, maybe you should go in this direction. It's much safer. I think I just have parents who really supported my brother and sister and I in everything that we ever wanted to do. And I think they knew that we would be okay, and they knew that I just had to try to see if I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had faith that I would land on my feet okay in whatever happened and wherever I would land. And so I think because I felt like I had that, it gave me a lot of confidence in just going for it, and dealing with what it is to work for that goal, and to wonder if it's going to happen or not, and where I would end up, and what I end up playing, what I end up teaching, what I am doing both, things like that. So I am so grateful for their faith in me that I could, just go for it. And that's something that I will tell younger folks who I talk to, is that if you got that passion and you really want to see if you can do it, then go for it. And you may not get there, like you might get there in kind of a crooked way to your goal, but just go for it. And I think I would have regretted it if I would have just pushed for this goal of being a musician. And fortunately, it's really worked out for me, and I'm grateful for that. So I really credit my family a lot for where I am today and their faith and confidence in me.
Well, that's like the opposite of calling them quitters.
When did that hit you? Was it in high school?
Yeah, I think I was a sophomore or junior in high school. I seem to remember this because I like to play sports, and I played basketball, I played softball. And I think at that point, my sophomore and my junior year, I decided to really focus myself more on my musical stuff and go away from the sports. And I certainly am grateful that I played the sports, and I got a lot out of it, but I felt myself just focusing. And I was studying with Keith Johnson at the time, who was teaching at the University of Northern Iowa and eventually went on to the University of North Texas to their faculty. And he was really influencing me and encouraging me and, giving me a lot of confidence in, that this could be a reality and you could really pursue this, and we think you've got what it takes. So I was getting a lot of encouragement from Keith as well at that time. So,
well, I want to dive into, because my hunch is that you mentioned that you weren't sure if you were going to end up playing or if you were going to end up teaching, or some combination thereof. And I'm guessing there was another moment along the way where that decision kind of codified. But before we do that, I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about the fine people at the Mary Pappard School of Music at Duquesne University.
Pappard.
And if you are inclined to do so, you can click on the link in the show notes below and be taken to a page created just for the listeners of the Brass Junkies, and you can find out about all the going on just for you at the Mary Pappard School. They got a phenomenal lineup of professors on each of the brass instruments, including the trumpet. I think there's still trumpet teachers there. I think, yeah. And some great ensembles. And thank you very much to the Pappard School for being supporters of this show. And a very special thanks to Jim Stardust Nova. I don't know why, but Stardust.
Before you ask your question, Will, who is our producer and our co-owner here at Petaluma Media, please do not edit that pause out because it was spectacularly awkward that he just didn't say anything for 4 seconds. And I want everyone to experience that, not just Susan. So,
yeah,
okay.
I wish I could have. And if there was a way to convey the look on both of your faces, it was like the subtle lean in.
I was like,
did he have a stroke? What happened?
Did his screen
freeze up? What happened?
No, I just saw him blink.
No.
His screen is not frozen. It's his
Stardust.
His mouth is frozen, which is rare. So, yep.
So, Susan.
Yes.
I teased that question before we mentioned Stardust, and I was wondering. So, you went to University of Northern Iowa as a trumpet performance major? ?
I did. My first year, I was exploring the possibility of being a music ed major. Northern Iowa is really known as a teacher training college. It's very well known for that. And so I was taking some courses that would put me on a path for music ed. But it was really that year that I truly did make that decision. Like, I think I want to get a performance degree instead of a music ed degree. So yeah, even going into my first year, I was still, kind of wavering a little bit, like, what should I do? But I thought, well, if I really want to play, then I have to really focus myself and my education in that way. And so that's what I decided to do. I got a lot of support for that, so it was nice.
And when did the Marine Band make your radar? Was that a thing you already knew about, or did you traditionally? Well, I don't know. Depends on where you are, I suppose. But a lot of brass players, except for the euphonium players, think, I want to make a living as a professional brass player, and they kind of instantly think about getting an orchestral career. And was this? I mean, you sort of knew about both career paths at the same time, or like how did they make your radar?
Well, it actually wasn't till a few years later when I was at Indiana, when I did my graduate work at Indiana, my master's and my doctorate, that the possibility of a Marine Band career kind of came into my radar. Ray Kramer, who was director of bands there at the time, he actually encouraged me to think about auditioning for the band. And because I had been doing auditions, orchestra auditions, and that was a path that I was really thinking about, along with a college teaching career. When I started my doctorate, I thought, well, college teaching is certainly something that I thought that I would do and could possibly do. And at one point, Ray, I think there was an audition for the band, and he mentioned it to me, and he said, I really think you should think about this. And so I had heard the band in Bloomington, maybe a couple years before that. The band came through on tour. And so I knew the quality of the band from just listening to the band during that performance, and I knew of the band, just kind of peripherally, and so I ended up auditioning for the band twice. And I 96 I auditioned, and then 97 when I got the job. So they were having a number of auditions around that time because there were a lot of people retiring from the band at that time. So there were quite a few auditions every year for the band. So so I really credit Ray a lot for putting that possibility into my head as far as a really a viable career in music. Yeah,
he's one of the greatest people in our field. I mean, he's just one of the greatest people I've ever met, just in terms of quality human, and that he happens to be a band person is just a win for us.
Lance, I no argument here. Ray is. I've told people outside of my family, there are 5 people who profoundly influenced the trajectory of my life, and Ray is one of those people. And when I went to Indiana, I played in his group every semester I was there. And I was in Bloomington for about 7 years because I did my master's and doctorate. And I just, playing in his group was just absolutely essential for me just because of, well, you know him, and you know what a quality human being, what an excellent musician he is. And he just, it was just essential for me to be around him because
makes sense to me.
Yeah, he really. I think one of the things about Ray that really, one of the many things that really impressed me was that the first rehearsal every semester, he seemed to know everyone's name already. Like when we call on people, he would call people by their name, and I think that's. Like, how many people does he, IU is such a huge place, and maybe he fakes it really well. I don't think so. I just think I think he just really believed in, this is how I show respect to the students that I have in my ensemble is something like that. And I was just blown away. And so
that's such a minor thing, but that sums him up like perfectly.
Absolutely. And he pushed us in such firm but loving ways. He has such rare gifts to me that he really always wanted the best for us, but he always cared. He always cares about the students that he's leading and the people he's leading, and goes the extra mile for so many people, and he did that for me. So I'm so grateful that I got into his orbit when I did, and the things that he did for me professionally and personally. So I just can't say enough about him, honestly. So
I'm with you.
Yeah, I once saw him give a class at the Colorado MEA when Boston Brass was there a number of years ago, and he actually asked me to come and talk for like 3 minutes in the middle of it. I don't even remember what the hell it was about breathing or something, but something that I remember that really, I'm not a conductor. Well, excuse me, I conduct every year at the Kennedy Center for Tuba Christmas. So
very impressive.
Yeah, which is like traffic cop. I just don't have to wear like warm, I don't have to wear a winter hat. Although sometimes I do because it's Tuba Christmas. So there you go. I'm literally a traffic cop. But my wife gets conducting gigs all the time, and I joke that they don't try and hire me because I only conduct on the main stage at the Kennedy Center. No, he said, and this really affected me, and it's also affected me as a player. But he said that it's the job of any conductor that every single individual page on a score that they have to have a crystal clear idea in their head of exactly what sound they are trying to get out of the ensemble in front of them on a page-by-page basis. They have to be able to hear the whole thing from top to bottom, each individual page. And it reminded me of a conversation I had with Carol Jansch once, where she was talking about by the time she gets on stage to play a solo, that she has again, like a crystal clear plan of every single note. Doesn't mean it happens, although coming out of her bell, the batting average is like disturbingly high. I mean, it's like 99 point something percent. But she has a crystal clear idea of how every note is beginning, ending, whether it's coming from, going to. Like there's just nothing she figures out on the fly. And so, yeah, when he said that about the score, it really kind of hammered home how And how calming is it when there's a conductor is that prepared in front of you, and how damn rare is it too? But yeah, he backs it up.
Oh, absolutely. And the sound he got from his ensembles, how he believed an ensemble should be balanced, really influenced me and how I play and how I think about an ensemble should sound. That idea of the pyramid and working from the bottom and just the warmth of that he got out of the ensemble. It was just really magnificent to just work with him as long as I was fortunate to work with him. And I was really honored. When he retired, he asked me to come back and solo on his retirement concert, and that was just one of my most special.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
Special memories, and I'm so honored. I just think of all of the amazing musicians that had gone through his ensemble, and to be asked by him and Matt Vaughn, because Matt and I were in his ensemble together. And so Matt came back and soloed, and so it was great to work with Matt again. And that was such a special weekend. And he had a big concert, and there were so many people that came. And I just thought, this is such a tribute to this man. I mean, the Musical Arts Center at IU is 1,600. I mean, that place was basically full. And I thought, what a tribute that all these people came back for his retirement. And just to be a part of that weekend was just really awesome. And so I'm just so humbled he would ask me to be a part of that in the way he did. So I'm just can't say enough about it.
Wow.
Awesome.
And he's not even the nice one in his relationship. Molly is the nicer of the two.
She's so you said you auditioned in both 96 and 97. So now what was the difference you won the gig in 97. So do you remember enough about, did you prepare differently? Did you play differently? Like what was the differentiator?
And did you hold it against the person who beat you in 96 once you got there?
Yeah.
No, because at least one of them is still my colleague to this day.
Oh, wow.
An awesome human being. So
sure they are.
Well, I was kind of at a different point at both times in where I just was in my life. In 96, I was really looking for a job. I had finished my coursework at IU, and I was applying for college teaching jobs and doing some auditions, and nothing was really panning out. And that audition went okay. I ended up being the first person to audition that day. And number one, I was number one, literally. When I went back the second time, I thought, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to play, even if I show up really early, because I'm not sure if that really worked in my favor to be the first person, just knowing, that how they were, that first batch of people, a committee is trying to figure things out, and the level of playing, and not to say that they should have, advanced me. I just didn't play well enough. But when I went back, I had gotten a job in Odessa, Texas. I was hired by the Midland Odessa Symphony to play co-principal trumpet, and and Lone Star Brass Quintet was also part of that. And then I was teaching in the school system, just private lessons. So there were 8 schools.
300 of them.
Yeah, that's what it felt like, even though it wasn't that. But there were 6 junior highs, 2 high schools, and I could have had more students than what I ended up having, which was about 65 kids a week. But that's how we made a living. You know, I
Jeez.
mean, the orchestra is a regional orchestra, and so it was once a month, and then we had our quintet responsibilities, but there wasn't a lot of that either. Um, so I got a lot. My teaching chops really, skyrocketed because of that experience. But I also knew that um, for as much as I got out of that, I knew that I would not be able to sustain being in that job with that kind of load of students and that kind of schedule. And so when another audition came around in '97, I decided to audition again, and I think I was in a much more focused place with doing it, and a lot of them I I'm not can't remember if the list was the same from '96 to '97 as far as between those two auditions that the Marine Band put out, but I just decided to really kind of focus myself and not not tell a whole lot of people that I was auditioning. I think one thing that maybe happened to me the first time was that a lot of my friends knew I was auditioning, and they were really encouraging me and being very supportive. But I think that kind of got into my head a little bit too. And I wanted to really just kind of I told just very few people, just really close friends, that I was auditioning again, so that I could just focus in on it and not have a lot of outside noise about it. Just put my nose to the grindstone and just do it. And I remember when I was offered the position with the band, and then I had been studying before I left Bloomington. I had been studying with Ed Cord at IU, and Ed really was so amazing to study with my last couple of years there. I remember telling him, my head was in a really different spot that time. I just felt like I was ready I was ready to take that job, and I put myself in that headspace. And I think the year before I just wasn't in that same headspace. So
you've said, or you've alluded to focus now a few times. So in high school, you decided to drop the sports and really focus on the music, and then in your undergrad, you dropped the music ed to really focus on the performance side of things. And now here it comes again. Is this a front of mind thing that has happened? Is this something that you had growing up? I mean, this notion of focus, which is so hard for so many people. What's your take on that? Why is it that you recognize that or knew that was a thing, or is that just is that part and parcel of you growing up?
That's a great question. I think I just felt like, if you really need to achieve something like that and do it at the level that so many people do it so well, that you have to just kind of get the noise out of the way and put yourself into that into a very focused frame of mind of, okay, if I'm going to do this is what I have to do it. I have to do X, Y, and Z. And maybe this other thing has to kind of fall by the wayside at this point if I want to get to it. And I think I sort of felt like, okay, if I'm going to get there, it takes more than just this amount of work. It takes this amount of work, and leaping to higher levels. And I think I saw that with other people, and how they got there. And so I thought, well, if that's the way to do it, then that's probably the way I need to approach it as well. And so I knew it would be a hard path. Music would take a lot to be able to achieve what I was setting out to achieve. And so I thought, well, okay, I needed to be doing this if I'm going to get there. And so I think that's probably was my approach to a lot of these different parts of my life. What was that?
Well, so what happens when doubt creeps in?
Well, yeah, doubt is. I know you guys can attest. That's a really powerful voice for any of us.
Yep.
In the music profession, and I kind of allude to the Inner Game of Tennis, that really great book that talks about that inner voice, quieting the voice of doubt, and everything.
Self one, self two thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I forgot that's how they labeled it. Yeah, and trying to be nice to that doubtful voice. So maybe that doubtful voice will become a positive voice again.
Well, because ultimately it's trying to protect you, right? I mean, the voice of doubt is there to protect you. Its intent is sound, but it is actually slowing down the progress or impeding it.
Yeah.
Seth Godin calls that the lizard brain.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The primitive part of your brain.
It is really fascinating how different people have Stephen Pressfield, the War of Art. He's more of like you got to smash that voice, and it's very interesting that you are saying that you have to be kind to it. But both of those things are getting at the exact same thing, even though they are polar opposites, which is just like not empowering it to steer the ship. So, and then to promote a lack of action or doing the work and then not being able to do the thing because, the doubt is in the driver's seat, if you will. So,
absolutely, I love the way you said that. When I was studying with Ed Cord and we would talk about auditions, he would always say, like, you never really lose an audition if you learn something from an audition. And so you've never lost, So I would do an audition and come back and we would talk about it. He said, well, didn't really lose it because look what you learned from what you did. But one thing he said to me, like when the doubt might creep in, is have faith, like remember when something went well and remember that feeling and have trust and faith that you have it in you to do it when that doubt. And I carry that with me. It's like, when you're playing along and you're getting kind of tired and it's like, that's all right. I can do this. I've done it before. I can do it again. And I'm going to do it right now. And just those kinds of head games that we have to play with ourselves to get us through, and that certainly has helped me to get me through a lot of stuff. So, so I'm grateful that Ed talks about trusting yourself and trust that you have, you've worked for it and you have the capability to do it. And sometimes I say that to some my students, and they kind of look at me with a question mark, like they don't quite understand that, but I'm like, well, I'll plant a seed and see if like maybe they have a light bulb moment at some point that might help them with that. But
that's great.
The doubt is a powerful thing, as we all know, but I think it keeps us grounded too.
Yes.
Having that voice of doubt, I think it's important for us to have that.
Keeps
as well.
You teachable. Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you reminded me of one of my favorite Arnold Jacobs quotes that I use all the time with students, which is "Catch yourself doing something right." Where it's it's really easy to list all the things that you do wrong, or did wrong or do wrong all the time, which is never actually all, or every or never. Those words are never accurate, but that's always the narrative that we use. But to build off of successes, like to intentionally build off of successes is something that's powerful.
Absolutely. And I remember with Ed Cord, I'd play something in a lesson and he would, okay, so tell me about that. And I find myself doing that with my students. And I always like to tell me something good that you did. Mm-hmm. Now you can tell me something that you'd like to do better. That's fine. We can all find that. sometimes it's hard for students to like figure out the good things they did. So then I try to point those out. But Ed would say, I'd say, well, I missed that note. And Ed would say, but look at how many notes you played right.
Right.
And you got more notes right than you got wrong.
Yep.
So what about those 2 notes okay, big deal. And I'd be like, okay, so we're putting something into a perspective here.
Yes.
That I think, so when the doubt comes in, you can have those tool like that to help you go, but look at everything that went right, and I can work on those things that didn't go as well as I'd like, but that's all right. So I think that's a very, very, very powerful thing that has really helped me through a lot of stuff, and to just not get too down on myself about miss some notes or something in a performance, and I'd be like, all right, there's going to be another performance. I'll work on that. I have another opportunity to and it's usually, and nothing is really ever as bad as we think it is. I think,
of course.
What impact did it have on the audience?
Yeah.
Like what was their perspective on it?
It's like, no,
absolutely.
I'm going to get to solo on Ray Kramer's last concert at IU another 20 times. It'll be, oh wait.
Well, fortunately, that went okay. So I wanted to make sure that went all right.
A little plug that I run a Twitter account that's called at Jacobs Quotes for anybody who's on Twitter, which is like 3 Jacobs quotes that are tweeted each week, which is some really good. One just popped up today as we're recording this. It was like when slurring, an octave up, like let the lower note inform the upper note, which I thought was a really good one. Yeah, it was like a lot of stuff that makes me a better teacher and a better player and obviously I'm the one that put them all in there and they're all scheduled, but yeah, just those little nuggets of wisdom as they go by are great. So
yes.
So speaking of nuggets of wisdom, we would like to thank B&B Grocery Meat and Deli for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. B&B offers fine customizable component sandwiches for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba players, including it's Parker mouthpieces. Parker is a dear friend and he's a sponsor and he's been vegan forever, and I'm intertwining his his ad with a ad for a butcher. So there you go. Because that's how classy I am, kids. Parker Mouthpieces provides the hosting for the Brass Junkies, and Parker Mouthpieces offers fine customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke Model euphonium mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And actually, if you would do us a favor and email Parker and ask him or suggest different meat-flavored mouthpieces, I'm sure he would really appreciate it.
That'd be really great. You can email Michael by going to parkermouthpieces.com, and you can email Parker about meat flavored mouthpieces.
Sorry, I chipped that note.
It's a meat piece.
It's so bacony.
It's a meat piece. Yeah, there you go. Yep,
meat piece.
Ooh, a bacon flavored mouthpiece.
How'd you break your tooth? Oh, long story.
The Andrew Hitz Artist Model tuba meat piece.
I'll play the impossible mouthpiece.
Oh, geez. Yeah, there you go. There you go. It looks and feels just like a real meat piece, but it's but it's not. All right. So, Susan, you just sounded as you always do, but you just sounded so like thoughtful and woke and you're talking about like self-awareness and self-doubt and like all this like helpful stuff. So we're going to have you stop doing that because then people are going to expect that every episode, and it's like, well, yeah, y'all are at the wrong place. So you know our dear friend Jens Lindemann, correct?
Who?
A little bit. Yeah.
I wish you could all
Wife
see
said the same thing.
I wish you could all see how uncomfortable Susan is getting. That was awesome. As you probably are well aware, Jens has been going through some chop problems now for what, like 5 years now, Lance, right? Is that
nonstop?
Is that how long we've been doing this for? For anyone new to the podcast, he's not having chop problems. He just used to make fun of trumpet players who weren't having chop problems, and so we make fun of him now. But Susan, that was for all the nice people from Iowa who are going to listen to this and are going to be horrified at you making fun of a fellow trumpet player who has to be filled with fear and self-doubt at this point. So the other part is that he deserves all of this abuse. So far,
the fear of self-doubt.
He has the fear. So what advice, Susan? He's gotten advice from Carol Jansch, from Joe Alessi, from Ryan Anthony, the list just goes on and on. David Childs, and nothing has helped. So no pressure. But what advice do you have for Jens in his dire time of need?
I don't know if I have any pearls of wisdom here for him. Maybe just put it back into the trumpet case and leave it alone.
Hey, there you go.
So do you mean like permanently, or are you talking for like a day or a week or a month or until we decide? Or
I plead the fifth on that one. God, I hope he doesn't put it away permanently. No way.
Yeah, actually, the one problem with your theory is that when he's not playing the trumpet, he tends to talk a lot. So
it's true.
Okay, all right.
So
all
right. You might be hearing from his wife. Yeah, and the rest of the faculty at UCLA. So I think they actually let him bring his trumpet with a practice mute into the faculty meetings because they just go smoother. When he just has something to noodle on. So they should
get a timeout in the corner.
Yeah.
Go practice your trumpet now.
Yeah. All right, so that's good. We've had a few he should just quit. So, but she put it in a very Iowa way. It was like, you should just put the trumpet in the case. Yeah, which was a very, very, very polite way of saying just give up. Yeah, it's done. It's over. You're not on the back nine. You're on the 19th hole. Like, it's over. So, there you go. Just go to the bar and just accept your fate. So, well, Susan, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. And also, I want to publicly thank you for your flexibility, which I wasn't at all surprised by, but you were the second guest that we had to cancel right beforehand. The first one was due to power outages at the Virginia Music Educator Conference a year ago. And this last one was because it was the first time that my son was sick from school. Like, he had a fever, and so I had to cancel like 12 hours beforehand or something. So it was either that or he was just going to be over my shoulder, like saying like, entertain me, daddy. So yeah, which actually would have kind of been funny, but I would have done that to Pat or to Aberchamento, but I wasn't going to do that to you because I knew that you would have actually helpful things to say, which you did. So there you go.
Well, you're very kind. Now that would have been fun to have your son. It would have been fun to see how it would have gone.
For me.
He busted into my office during one episode, which is, of course, the most listened to episode in the history of the Brass Junkies, and that was when we were interviewing Sam Palafian. So he couldn't hear Sam because I had headphones on, obviously, but Sam was amused, and Sam said like, "Hey, Nicholas, what's up?" Because he never actually got to meet. They never got to meet, but they kind of got to meet, which if he ever becomes a brass player, I think Nicholas will find funny. And the best part was that the person who was babysitting came in the room about 2.5 seconds after Nicholas and looked absolutely horrified. So that was the best part. So, because he was supposed to be quarantined and he wasn't. So, yep. So anyway, well, this was wonderful, Susan. Thank you very much. We are going to have you hang on for the bonus episode, which you can listen to. Susan's bonus episode, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, it will come out 1 week later. And we've got bonus episodes with like dozens of people at this point, which you can find out more about at patreon.com/. the Brass Junkies, and we've got a bunch of other things too. And speaking of Jacob's Quotes podcast is something that I do once a month, which is available exclusively for Patreon patrons of the Brass Junkies. So you can go check that out, and we got a few other things there. But you can head to Patreon to find out about that. And thank you, Susan and Lance. Thank you. I mean,
no, really. Thank you.
No, 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 thank you.
And I'd like to thank Pat.
Guys, you're awesome.
Pat and Abbracciamento for being low-hanging fruit that I can always, not pick, but just kick. And I'm 44. My leg kicks aren't exactly, Rockette's, height anymore.
You're 44?
So I am, man. I'm starting to feel muscles that, it's not that they felt good before. I just didn't know that I had them until recently, So it's like, oh, I don't really have a baseline to know whether this feels good because I've just never felt them before. So, but I'm told it gets better with time. So, all right. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Lance. And that is going to do it for this episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.